If you like going as fast as possible, then an aero road bike is going to be the thing for you. Here are 6 of the best that we have ridden and reviewed. If you like our selection of bikes, then like this video. If you don't, then you know where the comments are. Subscribe to see more from us and hit the bell icon to get notified when we post a video. Before we get to the bikes, we should just point out that we will only include products that we have actually reviewed in our 6 of the best series. Why? Well, we think that it's the best way to tell you what the best products are. It's difficult to form a valid opinion of a bike just based on what the bike brands tell us. The bikes that we feature have been ridden and reviewed by our independent team, so you know it's sound advice. Kicking us off is the 2021 Specialized S-Works Tarmac SL7 Dura Ace Di2. This bike really represents the new age of road race bikes where integration is the name of the game. The Tarmac actually replaced its faster brother, the Venge, and that has given us a slightly different looking Specialized lineup, with the new Athos coming into the range as the lightweight option and the Tarmac being left as the one dedicated aero road racer in the Specialized range. This one is the latest top-end offering from Specialized that now focuses just as much on aerodynamics as it does on weight, or the lack of it. The frame set has seen various tweaks over its predecessor, and when paired with aero components like the handlebar and wheels, that makes the SL7 a very, very fast bike indeed. This model comes in at a eye-watering price though. Oh, it's expensive. Coming in at a smidge over the UCI's minimum weight of 6.8 kg, the bike is obviously no slouch off the line, so acceleration is very brisk. Once up to speed, aerodynamics come into play, but they seem to be far more important at much lower speeds than on most aero bikes that we've ridden. On the SL7, that feeling kicks in at around 18 miles an hour. Once you get the bike up there, it just rolls along like you're always on top of the gear, and it makes for a very efficient ride and impressive average speed numbers once you get home. A lot of the aerodynamic bonuses are coming from the Roval Rapide CLX wheels, the front especially with its 51mm depth and massive 35 external rim width. We'd bet the Aerofly 2 bar helps too. Alongside the low weight and wind cheating design, the Tarmac SL7 also delivers on the stiffness front. Compared with a lot of the tightest frames out there, Specialized hasn't exactly gone for massive tube profiles to create the stiffness, and nor has it gone for a wider bottom bracket shell that would use press-fit bearing cups located inside the frame. It has instead plumped for a threaded option with the cups mounted externally. The steering is quick, which makes the S-Works an absolute blast when descending. Very light, stiff bikes can sometimes feel a little flighty over rough road surfaces at very high speed, but the Tarmac never really does. The whole bike feels very balanced, and thanks to the handling being very precise, you can carry a lot of speed into the corners. As a technical exercise, this is one hell of a bike. It really does deliver the whole package. It's great to ride, super fast with sweet handling, and thanks to that low weight and excellent wheels, all it makes you want to do is smash it everywhere. True, it is a lot of money, but what a bike. The WILIER FILANTE is a lightweight aero bike that offers a reactive performance, quick handling, and a surprisingly comfortable ride. If WILIER is to be believed, it's aerodynamically efficient across the range of real-world conditions too. Okay, the FILANTE should be pretty amazing given the price, but this is really a bit special. First, the FILANTE's acceleration is really impressive. From a standing start, getting up to speed after a tight turn, or simply when you're trying to put some daylight between you and the rest of the bunch, you're rewarded with easy speed when you flick the pedals. Then the FILANTE holds on to that speed very well. WILIER uses truncated NACA aerofoils for the FILANTE tube profiles. There's nothing unusual in that, obviously. Bike manufacturers are always taking an aerofoil shape and chopping the tail off so that the airflow behaves almost as if it's still there, while saving material and weight and avoiding handling issues. It's standard practice. The difference, according to WILIER, is what it's done with the cut-off shape at the rear of the tube. WILIER has softened that cut. Rather than being totally squared off, the edges are more round. It's not a gentle curve back there, but it's not abrupt either. What does that mean in the real world? Well, WILIER says that it makes the bike a bit more slippery in a wider range of wind directions. Whatever's happening with the tube shapes, the FILANTE is an absolute delight out on the road. As well as being light, it feels stiff. Launch your biggest out of the saddle attack and it remains tight and rigid around the bottom bracket, while the fork and stocky head tube keep everything firmly under control up front. Fast cornering feels fabulous, and the quick handling allows you to chop and change your line with minimum effort. This is a pretty comfortable bike too, especially considering it's a road racer. WILIER specs Vittoria Corsa Speed TLR tyres in a 28mm width, fitted to the brand's own wheels, which feature a 21mm internal width, allowing the tyres to balloon out to a whopping 29.5mm. This one is a bike that I had the pleasure of reviewing, and I have to say that I loved my time on the REACTO. The bike is a race thoroughbred that excels on flat and rolling terrain. The straight line speed, stiffness and handling are all brilliant, but the ride might be a bit too firm for some of you. MERIDA says that weight was one of the primary concerns when moving the REACTO to more of an all-round race bike and away from just an aero rig. At 7.5 kg on our scales for this size small, there is still some room before you worry the UCI 6.8 kg minimum weight rule, but I'd say it feels pretty lightweight enough. The low weight certainly helps you get up to speed, but the REACTO really reaches its happy place, cruising the flatlands around 40 kph and above. The new aero claims aren't massively impressive, but the REACTO was a fast bike already, so saving a whopping 2 watts because the cables are now hidden is just a little bonus. Eventually in the Mendips you do have to climb a hill or two, although admittedly I aim for them. Climbing really isn't a problem on these more modern aero bikes. The REACTO feels light and climbs just as hard as you want to go. In fact, I was dead impressed by the REACTO on the faster climbs, or where the gradient levels out at around 4%. The REACTO really comes alive when you shift into the big ring, holding onto momentum very, very well. A notable ride feature I mentioned before is how stiff the REACTO is, particularly the rear end. While a little messing around with tyre pressures led me away from my initial observation that the rear end was harsh, it's still a stiff bike, and it focuses far more on putting your power onto the road than giving you a comfortable ride. The REACTO isn't harsh, but you should know what you're getting into. MERIDA designed this as a full-on race bike, and while they may have worked to increase comfort, it is still a single-minded speed machine. I was incredibly impressed by the stiffness on the 2020 REACTO Team E. Combine this with a race-orientated geometry and superb handling, and you have yourself a brilliant race bike. I wouldn't call this the comfiest racer I've ever ridden though, so if you ride rough roads and you want a little bit of comfort, then you may wish to look elsewhere. In terms of aero, this one is all about heading uphill quickly. The latest iteration of the Trek EMONDA focuses on aerodynamics more than ever before, which makes the SL6 Pro one very quick and efficient road bike. The stiff frame set offers a firm yet fun ride, while the component choice keeps the weight down to exploit that stiffness on the climbs. It's a very good all-round package. When he reviewed it, Stu picked up on the fact that the SL6 Pro has quite a firm ride, a little bit old school, he said. By that, he meant that a lot of carbon fibre frames have become much more comfortable over the years as designers and manufacturers have learnt about carbon fibre grades, tube profiles, and more importantly, the layup of the composite material. This isn't a criticism of the Trek at all. It just wasn't quite what he was expecting. Stu actually quite likes it, saying that he's a big believer in ultimate performance over comfort when it comes to race bikes. And that is exactly what the EMONDA delivers. Stiffness throughout the fork and the lower half of the frame is very impressive, and that means that the Trek is responsive to your inputs. The wide bottom bracket shell allows for a large down tube and chunky chainstays to reduce flex when you are really nailing it, while the front end backs this up via the tapered head tube and firm fork legs. Sprinting and climbing are all taken in the EMONDA stride. The aero tweaks have turned it into a very fast and efficient bike. that still manages to deliver on the weight front, and this SL6 Pro model is so well spec'd that there's no need to update anything when it comes to the components. While the Foil is the out-and-out faster bike in Scott's range, the Addict is one of the best examples of a bike that combines some aero features with exceptional handling and all-day comfort. For the latest Addict, Scott has focused heavily on aerodynamics to boost its already impressive performance. By keeping all hoses and cables virtually hidden, it is certainly one smooth-looking machine, backed up by plenty of stiffness and a very comfortable rear end. At the front of this bike, Scott's component brand Syncross provides the bar and stem which hide away the cables. Our bike came with mechanical ULTEGRA shifting, and you really could tell that thought had been put into the cable routing. Shifting wasn't compromised and there were no strange rattles from a loose cable. The ride here is very direct. The frame is stiff, and like the REACTO, it might be a bit much for some, but that stiffness translates into amazingly quick accelerations. So if you're a fan of attacking the group ride, you are, we all know it, then this is the bike for you. The bike that we tested featured pretty bog standard aluminium wheels, so the bike gets even better if you lob on some deep and lighter carbon wheels. The third iteration of CERVELO's S5 was eventually launched in late September of 2018 after a 4-year wait. The S5 is very much built with aerodynamics in mind first, with CERVELO then working out how to build vertical compliance and comfort in afterwards. On its bikes built more for long day riding such as the R5, CERVELO starts with tube shapes that prioritise vertical compliance and lightness with a shorter, more upright geometry, and forgo the use of ultra-high modulus carbon to create a more damped ride feel. At the front of the bike, the bar stem combo allows for electronic and mechanical group set to be routed straight through, which means the cables are completely concealed on any spec of S5 you choose. The stack range goes up to 30mm in 5mm increments, and you can make the handlebar pitch adjustments in steps of 2.5 degrees or 5 degrees. If that's still not enough for you, a standard bar and stem can be fitted instead. At the rear end, you'll need to get the seat post cut down if you've got shorter legs like our Jack, but he was instantly a massive fan of the way the S5 kicks forward. He also found it to be relatively comfortable, but again, we are talking about a proper road race bike here, so comfort isn't going to rival an endurance bike. Well, that's our list of 6 of the best aero road bikes. Have we missed your bike off the list? Tell us why it simply needs to be considered. Remember to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to see more from us. We'll see you in the next one.